All right, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? All right. Good morning. Isn't it a beautiful day? It is gorgeous out there. I tell you, I love this weather. Okay, we'll consider that for a future improvement for another beautiful day, but not today. All right, so welcome to the user group meeting this morning. Go over the agenda. I'm going to do a few announcements. Megan Keefe is actually going to join me on the announcements. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the legacy system going away and some tips for what you all can do to prepare for when the legacy systems go away, and Megan's going to do that. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about just kind of the future work that's in front of us for 2015-16, the things that we're looking at doing in Connect Carolina between now and the end of the fiscal year. And then Kelly Huggins is going to come and talk about, we've had these MOST launches. You know, I think several of you in the room have attended them. What we've done is we've taken the people who have done like the most hires or the most status changes or the most funding swaps. We looked at the numbers to see who had done the most actions, and then we brought those people in and had lunch with them and spent an hour just talking about what improvements do you have? What is your experience when you're trying to do a hire? You know, what's kind of tricky or what's problematic, or what do you think we could be doing better or different? And so we got feedback from campus users who are really experienced at doing these certain kind of actions, and they spent a lot of time talking with us about giving us their feedback. So Kelly has gone through the feedback from these MOST lunches, and we've talked a little bit before at one of the user group meetings about some of the feedback, and she's going to go through some more of the feedback today. And then we'll just have time at the end for questions. So with that, I'll just start with the announcements. So before I get into the ARP and the bonus, the one thing I was going to say is we are switching to a calendar of having these user group meetings every other month in 2016, because things have kind of slowed down, and you know, we're kind of going over some of the same material, and things are relatively, I won't say relatively calm, but you know, we just think that we could do it every other month and hit the things that we need. And then if certain things happen that we feel like we need to call an extra user group meeting in between, we can certainly do that. But starting 2016, these will be every other month. So the ARP and the bonus, the $750 bonus is going to be paid out for FCA employees on the 11th, on the December 11th paycheck, and for EPA employees in MO6, paid on December 22nd. You all know that it's for permanent, probationary, time-limited employees who have been here as of November 1. So if you left prior to November 1 or you came on November 2 or after, you wouldn't be eligible for them. And it is prorated, so if someone in your staff has or in your unit is only here part-time, they'll just get a part-time, the prorated amount of that bonus, depending on their FTE on November 1. Employees who are on leave of absence are also, if they're eligible, will also receive the bonus. As far as the ARP is basically 2%. The instructions came out. ARP is the annual raise process for EPA employees. The instructions came out on Wednesday, and also the budget allocations came out from the Budget and Finance Analysis Unit on Wednesday, so folks should have all that information for them. The instructions were that deans and vice chancellors could choose to supplement that 2% if they wanted to. And really, basically, for the schools and divisions, what they need to do is they were given a spreadsheet of all the employees who are eligible, the EPA employees who are eligible in their units, sent to the MOU leads, and those spreadsheets need to be turned back in by Thursday, November 19th, and then there will just be a data upload where the information from that spreadsheet will be loaded in, and that's how the ARP will be processed. So none of the crazy doing a million actions and all that like we had to do last year. Yay. It does use the current sources, so just as a reminder, you don't even have to mess with the salary sources. It'll just use whatever the employee's current sources are for December, and then you can go in and adjust the sources if you want to later on. You can, as of December 21st, you can adjust them using the PAT tool. So any questions on the ARP or the 750? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So from my point of view, we did not get a spreadsheet. Does that mean we just didn't have the eligible employees, and it's not pushed back?
Oh, your MOU lead. Oh, the question was one unit did not get an allocation. So let me talk with you offline about that. It could be that that went to the provost office level. Yeah, sure. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you know yet if the 750 is going to be added to the regular earnings, or if it's going to be paid in a separate check?
It's in the same paycheck. I believe it's separated out, but it's in the same paycheck. Separate line item. Sorry, the question was, is the $750 bonus included in the normal paycheck? And the answer was, yes, it will, but it will be a separate line item. Any other questions? Okay. So I am going to turn it over. Oh, no, sorry, I forgot about this. The other thing I was going to mention was just there has been an organizational change for InfoPort. So, you know, Scott had done a really huge job in trying to get the InfoPort architecture ready and to be able to use it as an enterprise reporting tool. So we're very, very thankful for all the work he's done on that, and he's done a great job for us. But we're kind of at the next phase of InfoPort reporting where we're getting into how do we get these reports made. And we realized that, you know, the business analysis unit, the BAs, the business analyst team, are busy working on changes to the system, and they're all in, you know, handling the updates to the system and things that are happening and are intimately familiar with all that's going on. And at the same time we do that work, that's when we really need to kind of, as part of that work, pull in the reporting and start creating the reports as well. So we've made a change or ITS made a change in their organizational structure and has a reporting team now reporting underneath Fran, again, because she's overseeing that whole body of work for ITS, where the BAs are doing the work and the developers. So it just made sense to move that underneath there. So the enterprise reporting operation is now reporting to Mary Bell Carrion, the Senior Director of Application Support for Student and Administrative Services, and she's now the Interim Director over that, reporting into Fran. So you can see there, they're getting InfoPort. The InfoPort team is getting input from customers, from all of you all, through remedy tickets, through conversations, through lots of different ways that we get feedback from focus groups like this that are meeting, talking about reporting. Also from the team, they're also, of course, paying attention to the strategy that's being set for reporting, and they're creating a very structured process where you can go through, gather requirement or gather feedback about what reports are necessary, being able to go in then through a structured process and evaluate which ones are prioritized, and then go ahead and starting to create the reports. So the short-term goals, they are looking at all of the data loads, making sure that they're running correctly, that we're getting accurate and our data is being validated, and then working on completing key reports. So this is kind of, you know, new news. This has been happening for a couple weeks. I think this took place November 1, I believe it was, when this happened. So have a little change in the reporting strategy. I think that will help, having just getting it now more steady state and having this unit be involved with the BAs who are actually making all the system changes and all of that. So I think that'll be a good change, and we just wanted to mention that. Okay, so with that, I will turn the next slide over to Megan. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm just going to hold it. Can you guys hear me okay? For those of you who don't know me, my name is Megan Keefe. I'm the Senior Business Analyst and Team Lead for the HR Information Management Group. And before I start my slides, I also have an off-topic announcement that I wanted to share with you all. So some of you may be aware that we have been in the process of hiring 3 additional BAs to help out with the workload in our group, and I am thrilled to announce that Corey Mims has actually joined our team as a full-time business analyst, so we are super, super excited to have her. So if you know Corey, please offer her congratulations. She's not here, so. So we did a presentation at the user conference, and one of the things we presented on was some tips and tricks for maximizing the EPAR search when you're using View or Evaluate, so things to really help you
focus your search results so you're just looking at the e-pars that you need to be looking at. You know, if you're working actions for a particular payroll, that kind of thing, or just want to be focusing on actions for a certain department. So we took all the content from that presentation and we've boiled it down into a nice, really nice 2-page handout. So thank you to Kelly and Deborah's team for working on that for us, and we will have that for you on the way out. And then I'm going to do some announcements for payroll because Brian Sennett is on vacation this week. David, welcome. I'll let David do the announcement. Hey, nice to meet you.
I think I need to follow suit and just hold this. Okay, can you hear me okay? All right, let's see here. So online W-2s. First, a little caveat. So depending on your questions, my title is Payroll Tax Manager. I've been here about 3 months. So some of your questions, I may just have to jot them down and get back to you. Let's see, we'll be rolling out the 2014 W-2s through employee self-service, and the link actually says view W-2 W-2Cs, but the W-2Cs won't be available because they're you know, provided, or they really come up rather infrequently. Let's see, employees will be able to print their W-2s, and they'll be translated. Let's see, the communication, I'm sorry, will be translated into Spanish and I believe the other standard UNC translation languages. Let's see, where's the clicker here? Okay, so yeah, that's the link there. I don't know if you can see it, it's rather small. The W-2s will be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'll be official, just as official as the paper version that you can get from Payroll Services. No special paper will be needed to print them, and the functionality, I guess, will be especially useful for employees who need them for their personal banking needs and so forth. We won't be eliminating sending paper W-2s to the employees, and only the employee will be able to access their W-2, not managers, as that's, you know, really not provided by PeopleSoft. And let's see, if an employee needs a duplicate, they can access it via employee self-service, contacting the help desk, or sending an email to payroll@unc.edu. Sometime in 2016, I guess as part of a green initiative, we'll ask employees to waive their right to receive paper W-2s for 2016 and beyond. The online access will be secure, and IRS regulations require us to have employees waive their right to receive a paper W-2 if that's the only means that it will be provided. So, but for 2015, W-2s will still be offered in a hard copy version in addition to online. And I believe, I guess, towards the end of November, HR will be rolling out a process to provide guest access to former employees so that they can view their W-2 online. And my understanding is that's the largest population that actually is requesting the W-2s. So any questions about online W-2s?
Now, how long will the W-2s be there? I mean, will they stay there as long as you're working for UNC? I mean, will each year just accumulate?
That's my understanding, yes. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. How long will W-2s be available? And my understanding is that they will be out there for 2014, and then once 2015 is there, then prior years will be there as well. Yes.
You have to go to payroll and pick up the 2015, and they're going to be online. So you said.
I believe that they're normally mailed out to employees. Oh, okay. So I guess that process will still be the same, yes.
And what would you say would be the last day you can change addresses change your address to get your WEEP? I guess is there a deadline? And you just email that address change to payroll@unc.edu?
That's a good question. I didn't bring my pen up here, so that one I'll jot down and have to get back to you. Oh, I'm sorry. What's the last date that address changes can be made for the W-2s? So I'll have to get back to you on that one. Any others? Okay. Let's see here. We have a slide here about payroll calendars. So yes, we have the 2016 payroll calendars online currently, and the way we did it is in case folks had saved a link, you can use the same link. I believe page 1 will be 2015, and page 2 will be 2016. There are a few new columns added to the calendar. You'll see that it shows the pay period, as well as the manual check request date and the manual check pickup date. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, when you actually access it online, if you go to the Payroll Services website and go over to the right-hand side, and let's say, for instance, this is the bi-weekly one, you scroll down to the bottom, there'll be an explanation of, I guess, particulars about the manual check process there. Yes?
The manual check request date is that they have all the process through.
Let's see here. I believe the note at the bottom of it says the manual check request date is the date by which all requisite EPAR approvals will have taken place, and the remedy ticket with the completed and signed UNC Chapel Hill manual check request form attached will be submitted. Yes?
So also of interest to me is the payroll division deadline, which I believe is different than the payroll lockout. Is that only available on the calendars different from North Carolina? Or is that something that you don't know?
That's another one. Again, I have to get back to you.
Yes. This is basically that. The one with the school division deadline is on the HR calendar. Because the payroll has a payroll deadline. The HR runs on the HR calendar, which has this plus HR.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Did you want me to say a little bit about the online W-4 or NC-4? Or? Okay. All right. Let's see. I don't think we have any slides on that, but so online W-4 and NC-4 will be rolled out in the upcoming weeks, and it'll also be accessible through employee self-service. There'll be 24/7 access. Non-resident aliens won't be able to access them as they're not eligible to use these forms on their own. Employees with an IRS or NCDOR withholding lock-in letter also won't be allowed to use them. If the online form is submitted before the payroll lockout date, it'll take effect on the following payroll cycle. The online forms will inform employees on which payroll their online submission will be reflected, and they'll receive a email notification stating the changes have been made once they've gone in and used the form. Employees can submit online withholding changes as many times as they desire, and but if they claim too many allowances, they may end up receiving a lock-in letter from the IRS or NCDOR. Payroll will still accept paper W-4s and NC-4s as well as the online version. And I guess information about these forms, the online forms, will be in the employee orientation packets. My understanding is that new hires, though, will probably still need to submit the paper NC4 and W4s. So I believe the primary functionality for the online version is for existing employees. And also, I don't think there's any plans to translate the online forms, I guess, into the other languages. Any questions? Okay. Oh. In the upcoming weeks, my hope is before the end of this month.
Thank you, David. All right, so I've been asked to talk a little bit about some tips and just making sure that everybody's up to speed with how you can get access to our legacy HR system data once the legacy systems are decommissioned, which is happening very soon. So I'm really hoping that everything I'm going to show you is not going to be new to you. We'll see. So the things I'm going to talk about are how to get to legacy job and position data from Connect Carolina. I'm also going to show the position history report, which is not legacy data, but I want to make sure everybody's aware that's out there. You're going to get an early preview of the journal entry history page, which is going to be released soon. Was that from the hallway or from the room? I was going to say, I didn't know it was that exciting. And we're going to talk a little bit about legacy data warehouse access. So I think everybody in this room should be really familiar with the historic personnel actions links that you can get to from job data. So this is the way our complex users can get access to view all of the legacy action history for job data for an employee. We have a similar page for position data, so same kind of link, and brings you up the same kind of information from our legacy HRIS and EPA web systems. And this is the Connect Carolina position history report. So we didn't actually release this recently. This is actually something that you all have had access to since we went live, but we didn't have a link to it available in the Work Center, so I think a lot of people didn't know that it was available. And what this report does is shows you a full history of the incumbents in the position. So you can go and see, oh, I've had these 3 people in this position. This is what their salaries were. And while you can't see, because of the way we have the compensation things configured in the system right now, you can't see the annual rate on this page. If you click on the components links, that will take you to a subpage that will show you the annual rate that each employee was making. Any questions about that?
How do you get to this?
We added a link to the Work Center 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think. So you should be able to get to it from there. I believe it's under the positions folder. Kelly's nodding yes. Okay. I believe it was in a digest like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but we can put it in again. Yeah. Any other questions about the position history report? This is also just for the incumbent history within Connect Carolina. It doesn't reach, this is a delivered Connect Carolina report, so it doesn't reach out in the legacy. So coming very soon, there will be a custom Connect Carolina page, which is going to give you access to journal entry history, which I know very little about, but I understand that this is something that was available in HRIS. So this page will allow you to put in a PIN number and pull up all of the legacy journal entries from HRIS that were associated with that employee. So this is basically what the search looks like. So I've put in Jane Tarheel's PID up here, and then you can see it's returned me 6 different journal entries. And then I can drill down into those, and it will show me the detail of the journal that I clicked on. So it's got the from sources, the to sources. To cut the page off, I didn't include the comments, but if there were comments on the journal entry, you'd be able to see those as well.
Where would you access that?
This will be a page that's coming soon, so part of the rollout will be to put it somewhere in the Work Center so it's available. Yeah. Any other questions about that? Is this something you guys think will be useful? So a couple nods, good. So that should be coming out. We just started testing this earlier in the week, actually, so it should be coming out by the end of the year, hopefully within the next few weeks. I want to spend a few minutes talking about legacy data warehouse access. So how many of you had access to legacy data warehouse before Connect Carolina? Okay. So you should all be able to access the legacy data warehouse through InfoPort, but only if you had access to it in legacy. So what you'll need to do, and I believe the instructions from Anita went out yesterday about how to do this, detailed instructions about how to do this on CC Info. You're going to log into InfoPort, and there's one way to do it for your finance access, another way to do it for your HR access, and you're going to see if you have this tab available. If you don't have this tab available, it doesn't mean that you don't have access necessarily. If you have the legacy access, it just means we need to get you set up to have that access in InfoPort. The trick is that because the legacy data warehouse access is actually based off old HRIS and EPA web access, which was based on the old four-digit department structure, we can't give any new users access to the legacy data warehouse stuff at this time.
If I use new users, like I switch departments or schools, that still doesn't count, right?
That's a great question. So the question was, if I switch schools, does that count? If you were in the College of Arts and Sciences before Connect Carolina and you're in the School of Public Health now, your legacy data warehouse access is going to be for the College of Arts and Sciences still. It doesn't transfer over because there's no way for it to translate the new 6-digit departments at this time. So basically for the finance access, you're going to log into InfoPort, click the Legacy Accounts button, and then see if you can see the Legacy Data Warehouse tab. And for the HR access, you're going to click the Legacy HR button and then look for the Legacy HR tab. If you had access on Legacy and you don't see those tabs in InfoPort, you can work with your InfoPort ARC person, Access Request Coordinator, InfoPort admin, sorry, which is different than the Access Request Coordinator to get access to it. Like I said, you must have had the legacy access. This time we're not granting new users access. I will say a long-term solution for getting people access to the legacy data warehouse stuff on an ongoing basis is on our future to-do list. So it's going to be a kind of a complex solution because we are going to have to set up some kind of translation between our current security, which is based on the 6-digit departments, translate that over to the old 4-digit departments. But that's something we will like to make available for you guys in the future. Any questions? That is a perfect lead-in for Vicki to talk about additional future work. Vicki.
All right, so thought I would just spend a little bit of time showing you, kind of giving you a sense of the different things that we'll be working on for the remainder of this fiscal year. And actually, the last slide has some things that we're looking on even a little bit beyond that. So in the benefits arena, one of the big things we're working on right now is ACA. You know, we've got to make sure that we're compliant with all the new ACA regulations. So we've got some behind-the-scenes stuff that helps us track FTE and all kinds of things. And then we also have reporting that we have to do. Just like kind of around the time we do W-2s, we have to do ACA reporting for the entire university. So we're actually the university system is looking at having an outside vendor do that, but we still have to provide them all the data and make sure that we have everything ready for them. So we've got a pretty large effort getting ready for the ACA reporting stuff that we have to do. Also, of course, with benefits, we have open enrollment, and in the spring we'll have benefit statements. So those are some things that we're working on right now. I'm not going to go through every single item on this list because there's a whole lot, but just you can kind of read through it as I talk. Commitment accounting, these are some of the hotter things that we're working on in commitment accounting right now. The mod to the labor projections, the PAT tool that was just released. In core HR, the annual raise process to LSI. We're also looking at, future ARP process. How can we do it? Back in EPA Web, we had a whole lot of bells and whistles, and we had a very solid system with EPA Web that we could build on and create a super great ARP process. So it'll take us a while to get there, but we're looking at, first of all, processing this year's ARP, and then can we make the process smoother in future years. There's some things we have to do in the system because each year there may be different at-work hours that are in the year, so we have to make sure that Connect Carolina pays people appropriately according to the way our state has things set up. So that whole 2080, 2088, 2096 work hours is something that we have to look at to make sure that for next year that things will be right. So you can see some of these things. I mean, some basic things, right? The DDD list is the Dean's Director's Department Head list. We have to make sure that we're getting information out of Connect Carolina, feeding to that list so that as new Dean's Directors or Department Heads come, we're able to give them the communications that they should be getting. The EEO plan is something that we're working on. FLSA, hopefully you all have heard that there might be some changes coming for FLSA. So we've already begun the process of changing the system because it looks like there will probably be non-exempt EPA employees, which we haven't had that in the past. So it's a whole new pay group, a whole new way of doing things for that set of that new population that will be coming into play should these regulations get passed. If the regulations do get passed and the changes do get made to FLSA, is such far-reaching scope that we kind of can't wait to know exactly what's going to happen. We have to start kind of getting the system ready to have at least this new pay group now, so that when the decision is made, we won't be behind the 8 ball. So we're working on doing quite a bit of work for FLSA. The long-term ARP process I already mentioned. Mass updates, we do, I think we've told you before at user group meetings that we have to actually go in and terminate all the SPA temps ourselves, even though it looks like they automatically get terminated. The BAs are behind the scenes doing that. So we're trying to get some mass update capability so they can just be done automatically. We're also looking at getting mass updates to the TIM approver and reports to, so that if somebody leaves, we can go in and for a whole unit, just if a manager leaves, we can go in and just load a file, or automatically have everybody that reports to that person be updated automatically in the system. Performance management is another area that we're looking at. You all have mentioned wanting something that was like a PIF, so that's on the list of trying to create something in the old days, which was the PIF. And the probationary date change from, it was 2 years, now it's back down to 1, so that we're going to have to change the dates in the system and get that to work as well. So these are, some other things. The summer school job codes. We've got new summer school job codes for next year. Michael had asked that we break those out. There's an address validation tool that we're looking at within Campus Solutions. So when people put in an address for a new hire and they say that they live in Chatham County and they have a zip code from Nevada, they'll say, oops, that's not right, you must have a typo. So things like that to kind of help keep our data clean. And some of these things, the Campus Solutions bundle testing and the integration integrity utility, they're things that are all behind the scenes, things that we need to do in order to keep the system running efficiently. We have the legacy decommissioning work that's coming up. For GA, we're looking at the people admin interface so that their position job data flows into people admin the way it does on the UNC Chapel Hill side. And just general data validation. In learning management, we've got a couple changes coming up so that supervisors don't get notified if someone is going to a particular course. There are some courses that are a little bit sensitive and more private that don't relate to someone's job. And maybe we don't want a notification to a supervisor that someone's going to go to the, oh baby, I'm having a baby class or something when they haven't told their supervisor yet. So we want to make sure that we can not have notifications sent for those. And again, just some maintenance work that's going to be happening. And then in payroll, we've already talked a little bit today about the NC4 and W4, the W2, online W2s, also looking at just normal tax updates for them and a TIM upgrade. And then in security, we're looking at a way to maybe streamline the security process a little bit, kind of behind the scenes. I know for you guys submitting the security request, it's still pretty cumbersome. I think longer term, there may be some processes we can fix there, but kind of behind the scenes, they're looking at ways of setting security a little bit better. The self-service, we are, hopefully by the end of November, we'll be rolling out something, a guest ID, where employees who leave. Employees right now, if they're terminated, they can't, the next paycheck that comes in after their access has been cut off, they can't see it. So we're going to be rolling out some guest IDs, so people who have been terminated, if they already were an employee, had an onion, when they terminate, they can enroll for a guest ID so that they can see their paychecks online, and they can also look at their W-2s online. And then some self-service implementation for race and ethnicity. So these are all of the things that we have that we're looking for between now and the end of June. So quite a lot. If you can tell, there's a lot of really meaty stuff in there. So super, super busy trying to get all of that done, and quite a bit of that is mandated to us that we have to do. So, and then these are some of the things that we're looking for kind of future work. I'm not going to go through all of these. These are from July on, but you can see some of the projects that we have that we're looking at for post-July. And then again, in addition to all of this, we have bugs and enhancements requests, little things that are kind of coming in that we're trying to fix along the way. These are kind of the major projects that we're working on. So we just wanted to give you guys some visibility so you can see the things that the Connect Carolina team is working on now and will be working on in the future. Any questions? Yeah.
When you spoke of the performance management, does that include EPA and your performance reviews integrated in the process?
Oh, the question is on performance management, will it include EPA? We're still solidifying the strategy on that with HR folks who are over that, so I don't have a definitive answer on that right now. Once we kind of get it resolved, we'll let you know. Any other questions? Oh, yeah.
When it says Tim upgrade, did that do her code for a system?
No. That is just upgrading Tim. They just have to do an upgrade to Tim. But I will say, PeopleSoft does have a time and labor module. So maybe later, that's a huge undertaking in its own right to look at that. So we're with Tim for the time being. But one of the things we can look at in the future is whether or not we could go to the PeopleSoft time and labor module.
I have a question about access for terminated individuals. If someone is terminated due to risk and they're going to receive severance pay, does their access go away because they were terminated and you have to reestablish that, or will they continue because they're essentially terminated with pay? Will their access still continue so they can see their severance check?
So the question was about someone who was laid off and is terminated with pay. Does their access end? And Megan's here to answer that question for you.
Thank you. The system would consider the termination with pay to be just like a termination, so it should inactivate their onion. When we roll out the new guest ID creation process, which we're hoping to do either the end of this month or early in December, they will be able to go in and create a guest ID as soon as their onion is inactive.
In the meantime, no.
Until we roll out the new guest ID process, they will not have access. Yep.
Any other questions? Okay, then I will turn it over to Kelly, who's going to talk about the most lunch recap. Thank you. I'm going to hold it since that seems to be the thing that everyone's doing. I get the opportunity to tell you all about the most lunches. Was anybody present at any of the most lunches? I see one hand. Barbara, congratulations. Which one did you attend?
Job change.
Job change.
Position creation.
And position creation. So Vicki had kind of run through a little bit during the agenda what the most lunches program was, and she explained that we ran some numbers and we got some idea. I think we invited the top 10 people out on campus who were using the EPARs the most, and we invited them to a lunch. It was catered by Panera. It was very nice. We wanted to create an environment where everyone across campus could come and join and share ideas.
So this was hosted by the change management team with the HR leadership, and Fran was there at each one along with Vicki and Rich and Megan and, you know, a lot of BAs, a lot of people from change management. Anita, Deborah Beller came to each one. And so the environment was to create the idea was to create an environment where everybody felt, you know, very positive and happy, and we wanted to learn what was working for you all from the people who were using it the most, what were the problems, where we could improve, what things we should keep doing. So, you know, it was very successful. It was wildly successful. Everybody came, they enjoyed it, and I just want to thank you all for your participation because, you know, without this feedback, of course, everything that Vicki was just running through, our work plans, you know, this helps structure our work plans going forward, our future work, what we need to do, and it was just very important. So thank you for doing that. And, oh, 2 computers here. There we go. One of the things that we did is we gave out certifications or certificates and also some prizes for the people who were recognized, and we talked about the strengths and the weaknesses. One of the other things that was very important from the most lunches is that we were able to determine what was like a computer issue or a technical issue that we had to work on as opposed to maybe a business operation or a procedure that we needed to maybe change. And of course, when you have all these people talking about what they like and what they don't like, it brought in everything else as far as what's working for reporting, what's working in the approval process, and all that kind of good stuff. So they were very rich discussions. And I just want to take a few minutes to give you just a slice. There was a lot of discussion. I could not, of course, put everything up on the slides, but we went through, we had 7 lunches. The first one we had was for the higher EPAR, and a lot of people commented on how much they liked the logic that was built into these forms and how it helped you create the form as you were going along. And there were pros and cons both with that logic and some of the discussion around that. Also, they liked the positions when you're hiring someone and you have an SPA or an EPA non-faculty position number to use. That pulled in a lot of information. And again, the discussion kind of went along the lines of, well, you know, what's stored at the position level, what's stored at the person level, and some of those things were brought up to light. We also talked about the different originators and the levels of access that they have into the system, and there was a lot of discussion about what student originators can and cannot do in the system, and, you know, things that we can try and get out there to help them. But it was neat that people were sharing ideas. I know Barbara, for one, does a lot of work with students, and so she had a lot of suggestions, and, you know, she was in a room with some people maybe that she didn't know, and so they were sharing ideas and probably created a little networking there. So in that aspect, these lunches were very helpful. We had, again, another one for the change status EPAR, easy to use. People like that. They were able to easily look people up. It worked well. It was simple. Some of the suggestions, the enhancements, they wanted a hold button. They wanted to add fields like the appointment end date to the top of the form. Processing the student actions can be very complex, especially for student originators, since there's so many students that are going in and out of these part-time jobs, how to create it so there wasn't a break in service, or some of the things that we talked about were issues with getting them in the system in a timely way so that when they were logging their hours in TIM, it wouldn't delay their pay, things along those lines. They were brought up. Keep going to that computer. The lump sum payment, this is also something, it's a very short form and most people liked it, and we got a lot of positive feedback about that. Many people who use this often, they didn't like the fact that you're always pushed back to the EPAR homepage instead of the lump sum initiation page, so that was an enhancement that was requested. And then of course there are some issues, and we even have a handout available today about the effective dating used for lump sum payments. So we've got some information and some additional training guidelines that we're putting out about that. The existing or edit existing job EPAR, everyone calls this the job change EPAR. Again, you know, more you get in and use it, people liked it, they liked the search, easy to search and find employees. The attachments were very easy to add, but we found out that some of the attachments are too large and we got to cut them down, and we're going to look into possibly enhancing that aspect of it. Some of the fields were maybe a little bit too short. People were using unique abbreviations that later show up in the directory, so then they were inconsistent. So some of those things were brought to light. Also, they'd like to be able to change the TIM approver and the supervisor at the same time. Obviously, that happens a lot. You want to be able to do that with one form. So a lot of these things were coming to light. It'd be helpful to pull up information about others did in the same department and not pull up the information just by the originator. We have some enhanced search features that Megan was talking about, and we've got some handouts, and we covered that in the user conference meeting. But again, this is all on the list. All of these things were marked down, they're noted, and they could be incorporated into our future work. For the next one, the affiliate, this one was actually a kind of a fun lunch. There were a lot of people there, and you know, some of these things we kind of were anticipating anyway. And first and foremost, there's two systems that you kind of have to go in and joggle between. Is it here? Is it there? What do I do if it's here but not there? That kind of thing. So we were anticipating that. We got a little more insight from the PID office. The start date bug. If you future date the EPAR, then your onion can't be activated, so that was a big issue that came to light. Also, a report notifying the affiliate end dates, so reporting requests were also discussed. Also, the sponsor field, there were some issues with that. Sometimes the department that you put in wouldn't be recognized, and what people were doing as workarounds, we kind of found out that some of them were good ideas and some of them maybe we wanted to not continue. And then also you can't add the GA affiliates, so again, some of these things we were anticipating, but it was nice that everyone got together. They were able to sort of validate their assumptions about what's happening and what's not happening. The positions EPAR, it was user-friendly. It's a little unclear about distinctions between position and jobs. And so much you have to change on the position EPAR first and get it fully executed before then you do an edit existing job EPAR, so it pulls up the information. But you know, it was nice to solidify all these details. The funding box, whether people wanted that checked by default or not checked. Anybody, who wants it checked by default, which is what it is? Okay. Noted that not a single hand in the room is up. Would like to see if a position is vacant or filled, and I think that that was directed towards like the search, your search results. So if you kind of put in your department or something like that and you wanted to see all your positions, it'd be very nice on that search result before you even have to drill down into any detail, whether it was filled or not. Using the previous button, that sort of introduced some corruption into the form. If you wanted to skip over that funding grid and you forgot to deselect your option there and people were navigating back to that front page, deselecting the checkbox about funding and then going forward. This is something that has been fixed and then sort of broken again and fixed, but it's definitely something we're all aware of and actively working on. Changing the job code in the employee group resets some of the other fields, including like the FTE. So again, that was just heightening everybody's awareness about how that works. Fund swaps, easy to find the employees, work with the form. I thought there'd be a little bit more confusion, but people actually like this form. You know, sometimes there were comments about the stacked grids and not being able to just sort of very quickly get an idea of what's happening there. But once you sort of sit down and you get into it and you focus with the effective dates, people liked how this form worked. Need to be able to look up by employee, the employee name or the PID. Of course, they don't like having to look up by the position number, and that was something that was anticipated. Would like the employee group field at the bottom of the form to auto-select. Since you're kind of popping in information already, there's no reason that couldn't maybe come up for you. With all of that, I know I'm throwing out a whole bunch of pros and cons, and there were just, like I said, a slice of the conversation that was happening. There were some trends that emerged. So a lot of people were saying the same thing. And of course, whenever you pull these people in for lunch and you're there to talk about and congratulate everyone for, yay, we're here to talk about the lump sum payment form, of course, you know the conversation throughout the rest of the lunch is you're going to talk about the lump sum payment, but then you're going to pull in and talk about everything else you like or don't like. So we heard a lot about how people want to use multiple people on one form. They'd like to see better documentation or maybe some standardized comments that could be constructed so that there'd be a unified, maybe some understandings that we could kind of work on. It'd be helpful to pull up information others did in the same department. So again, that goes back to the, you know, making those search fields very dynamic. We kind of wanted to put out some help about how to use them. Would like to be able to change the TIM manager and the supervisor on the same action. We heard that a lot. And we actually heard a lot about the student originators, what they can do and can't do. And a lot of information was shared, suggestions about tips and tricks and pulling in InfoPort and how that could support maybe your student originators in finding information in the system. A lot of people wanted some guidance on the action reasons, the action codes, and the corresponding action reasons. Each of those creates a page in job data for the person, so just how to use them more effectively. A lot of people would like to be able to see some funding information. Of course, you can't do that very easily on the HR side. I'm sorry. A better way to help manage the FTE for temps. A lot of this centered around students, but for any temp with multiple jobs. When you add the attachment, how do you see the attachments once the EPAR has been executed? Rather than, they want to do it from the EPAR homepage rather than going into job data. And of course, the error messages, which still remain very cryptic and very technical, if we could kind of use some regular language so people know what to do with them. A couple things that they've already put into place. I know that Vicki had a whole list of things about what was on the to-do list, what's for the future to-do list, and with so many things on a list, you've prioritizing what can quickly be done, what needs to be, you know, what's more of a process. Some things that have already been done, the reports to and the supervisor ID information has been added to the UNC employee information link. So that's something now that your student originators can see very easily. On the status change EPAR, you do have to put, if you have an employee that has multiple jobs, you have to put them individually, you have to put each job, you have to put that person out on leave. And that will stay the same for various reasons. Some jobs, you're putting them out on leave with pay, some without pay, something like that. You're terminating them from one job, but not all of them. But the flip side of this coin is when you want to return somebody from leave, if you do that for the primary job, then all the secondary jobs will automatically come back. So there have been a few things that are already in production, a few things that are already on the docket to get into production. Overall, it was wonderful. We had 7 lunches. I think they started back in May, right? So it took a while. We just had our last one in October. And just wanted to thank you all. If you have suggestions, you know, pros and cons, these are things that you can send to us at any time. You know, the enhancements always get tracked on the help desk tickets. And if there's any questions, will we be having any more most lunches?
I think we're done with them.
So one of the reasons we have the user groups is to share information from you all and also get feedback from you guys. So, you know, Kelly's gone through a whole lot of things that people talk with us about at these most lunches, but we're always anxious to hear. You know, we really need your feedback to how to make the system better. So after this meeting right now, if you have things that you're thinking about, feel free to hang out and talk with us and share your feedback. There's also the connectcarolina@unc.edu. If something spurred a thought here and you don't have time to stay afterwards, but you want to send a quick, you know, hey, I was thinking about this, you can send some feedback to connectcarolina@unc.edu. Or there's always a remedy ticket. That truly is the best way to put in your enhancement requests, because through remedy we track them and they get into the queue. So if you have thoughts, really the remedy request is really the best way to go. So any questions? Anything you guys want to talk about? All right. Well then, one thing. Here's Megan Keith.
We actually brought the wrong handout with us today, so I don't have the fabulous handout I promised about the EPAR search, but we will include it in this week's digest, and we'll also post it on the CC info page for you. And we do have a great handout on lump sum payment effective dating. You're welcome to take with you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Will the HR calendar that she was referring to, is that going to be posted somewhere we can just go fetch it ourselves? Or will we always have to wait for a digest?
It's on the HR website right now under policies, procedures, and systems, HR systems, technical. 2016 is still under review.
So the question,
We'll put it out as soon as we get it.
the question was about the payroll calendar, and it is out there. The HR payroll calendar is on the HR website for 2015, remainder of 2015, under policy, procedures, and systems, I think is what it is. The 2016 will be out on the website as soon as it's finalized. All right. Thank you, everybody.